to the studio home of the Rubicon Project. Today I'm going to do a rig rundown video. Over the last few weeks I have completely rebuilt my entire recording setup. I've been using the Tonex to create my amp tones for a couple of months now, and I've been very happy with it. But I decided that I really wanted to have real effects that I could actually see and feel and touch below the desk. For the last 6 years I've been using the Line 6 Helix, which is over there, and it's a fabulous piece of kit. It allows you to dial in all sorts of different amplifiers, effects, all sorts of different sounds. But the effects I've been using on the Helix have always been the same. I've used a standard effects rig for every amplifier setup that I've played with on the Helix. So the way I did it was I would copy a preset with all the effects in it, and then I would add different amps so I could hear the different characteristics that different amplifiers would give me. The thing is though, I just kept coming back to the same amplifier. I've been using the Mesa Boogie Mark IV emulation for pretty much everything I've done. I think I used the PRS Archon for one particular track and one track only. But apart from that amplifier, I've been using the Boogie. So since I've switched to the Tonex, now the Tonex is a digital capture device, the Helix is a digital modeler. A modeler has digitally modeled every element of the amplifier, so when you turn the controls, the EQs and the gains, they all behave exactly, or as close to exact as it is possible to get, as to how the real amplifier would function. Now, a capture device like the Tonex is a different concept. What it does is it captures the sound of a mic'd up amplifier under one set of conditions, and it gives you the most faithful reproduction of that particular amp under those conditions that you can possibly get. Now, I've been using captures of a Mesa Boogie Mark V amplifier, which is the amplifier I used to own. So I found captures for the clean channel, the crunch channel and the lead channel that were captured using the exact same amplifier settings that I used on my Mark V. So this means I have my Mark V amplifier in one box, which is great. But what I've done since is I've added some extra effects. But I've done more than that. The first thing I've got is this. And this is a Shure wireless transmitter. Now, I've not used radio mics for a long time because I didn't really like the build quality. This thing is built like a tank. So all I do is I clip this onto the back of my trousers. Now, I take the cable and put it in my pocket. There's a reason for doing that. If that cable's dangling around as you're changing guitars, you can dink the guitars and do all sorts of stuff. Now, one of the reasons I got this rig was because I change guitars an awful lot when I'm recording, and I'll switch from different electric guitars to bass guitar, back to electric guitar. So having this cable in my pocket means that I can change the guitars without having to mess around and have different cables and having the cables getting tangled up and all that stuff. So that's how I get the sound from the guitar. And the Sure's EMGs are particularly well suited to clean sounds. So first thing I do is I take the cable out of my pocket. I always get this wrong. I end up with no sound coming from the guitar, and it's either because I've got the cable still in my pocket and not in the guitar, and then the next thing I have to do is to turn the transmitter on. Now, a transmitter needs a receiver, so to see that, we're going to go down to the second camera. So this thing here is the Shure receiver, and when I switch the transmitter on, you'll see the receiver, it lights up. And that's it on. And like a Spinal Tap amp, it goes up to 11. Now, the first pedal in my board is one I've had for years, and it's this line selector pedal. What it does is it takes that input signal and allows me to send it to different places. Now, at the moment I've got it set up so that there are two outputs. Channel A is into the pedal board itself and the Tonex. Channel B sends a signal into the computer for a bass sound. So basically, to switch from guitar to bass, all I do is flick that pedal, change the guitar to a bass, and I'm already set up to play bass guitar, which is brilliant. Now, there's another output on that pedal that I don't have activated at the moment, and that is the bypass. The bypass sends a signal over to the helix. So it's handy if I ever want to use some of the sounds from the helix again, I can. So I have 3 different setups available to me just by changing the settings on this pedal. But channel A is sending it through the pedal board. Now, let's start with the tone X, because that's the most important. So the tone X has 3 foot switches, A, B, and C. And I've got each of those set up with a different amplifier. So channel 1 is a clean amplifier. It's a capture from channel 1 of a Mesa Boogie amp. And it sounds like this. That's the bridge pickup. When I'm playing clean, I tend to use position 2, which is the combination of the humbucker and the single coil. I think it gives a much nicer clean sound. The other position I'll use is position 4, which is the 2 single coil pickups together. And what I'll do is I'll blend 2 different guitars with different pickup settings, and then I can play around with it in the mix. So that's really handy. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll add a little bit of distortion to the clean sound, just to take it to the edge of breakup. And to do that, I use the next pedal in line, which is my Ibanez Tube Screamer. Now I've got it set up with the drive down at 0, and I've got the level quite high up. Now what that does is it means that it doesn't function as a distortion pedal. All it does is pushes the front end of the amplifier a little bit harder and gives you a little bit of breakup. Sometimes it can be quite nice to have one channel recorded on the clean setting and another with a little bit of breakup, and then when you blend the 2, it just gives you an interesting sound in the mix. Now the first effects pedal that I have is a phaser. It's an MXR Phase 90. Now the version I have is an Eddie Van Halen signature model. Now I'm not a massive Eddie Van Halen fan, but it just happens that some of the pedals that I bought happen to have Eddie Van Halen signature models, which actually gives them some additional functionality that I really like. So the Phase 90, the phaser, has an extra button on it, this thing here. And it's basically a button that switches between the vintage model of the phaser and the more modern model. I tend to use the traditional version, the vintage version, but I'm sure the new one will come in handy. So it's nice to have 2 different effects in one pedal. There's only one button on the phaser, which makes it really easy to use. Now, I prefer to have it with the speed set as low as it possibly goes. So let's hear what it sounds like. That's clean. With phaser. It kind of gives you this off-world effect. It's a bit spacey. Now, there's an Eddie Van Halen setting on this pedal that has a slightly different phase sound. So if you actually line the line on the button up with the black line that runs across here, it gives you Eddie's sound, because he had the speed button set between 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock, which is exactly where it is now. And this gives you a slightly deeper phase sound because the phase speed is slightly faster. So let's listen to the Eddie Van Halen phase sound. excellent sound. Very happy with it. So we'll switch that off. The next pedal in line is a flanger. Again, it's an Eddie Van Halen model. Now I've got this set up. Again, it has two settings. The first setting is basically the flanger, but set up with however you've set the dials is how it will sound. So this is how I have it set up for my flanging sound. Quite a delicate sound. That's the dry sound. This is the flanger sound. It adds a bit of a jangle for me, and I think that's quite nice. You can actually use phaser and flanger in combination. And you get the jangle, but you also get the phasing effect alongside it, so that's quite nice. Now again, this is two modes. If we switch the Eddie Van Halen mode, we get Eddie's flanger settings. Sounds pretty cool. The next pedal in my rack is a Boss Dimension C. I had one of the original versions of these, but it actually broke on me recently after goodness knows how many years faithful service. This is a very subtle chorus effect. So I've got it set on button 1, so this is the sound with no effect. If we put the chorus on, it's a really subtle chorus, but it also has a bit of extra spatial information as well, which is really cool. If we switch to button 2, the effect is more intense. And the same with button 3. Effectively, as you go from 1 to 4, you get a more intense chorus effect. So this is number 3. And number 4. Let's put it back down to number 2 for more subtle effects. But if we use phaser with chorus, we got a nice sound. You get the extra depth of the chorus, but you get that phasing effect that runs through it, which I think sounds better with the button set at 0. So if you want a mysterious sounding clean guitar, combination of phaser and chorus works great. You can do the same with flanger and chorus. You can go mad and have all 3. Now we come on to the final pedal in the chain, which is my delay. But before I go into the delay, I'll play you the other sounds that I get from the tonic. So this is the clean sound. I also have a crunch sound with a little bit of distortion. Let's switch the chorus off so we can just hear the amp on its own. Classic overdriven sound. I kind of think of that as my AC/DC sound. If we go to channel C, we have the lead channel of the amp. With my lead channel, I also use the tube screamer. It just tightens up the mid end just a little bit. Off. On. It's really subtle, but it makes a huge difference. So that's all of the pedals in the rack bar one. The next pedal is my digital delay. Now, it's been on the whole time, but it's been on in a very, very subtle setting. Now, it's based on a rack unit that was available in the 1980s. And a lot of people use them, including Eddie Van Halen, so this is also an Eddie Van Halen signature model. What it was a rack-mounted stereo delay. And basically, you just set in either in milliseconds or subdivisions of the song tempo to get a digital delay that was perfectly in time with the song. Now, although it was a stereo unit, you only got one delay per unit. So what these guitar heroes used to do was to buy two of them and use each of them with a different delay setting. Now what they've done with this pedal is you actually get four. There's delay one is two different stereo delays, both in stereo. And you can either have them panned left and right, or you can have them in serial, which means they come straight down the middle. Gives you a lot of ability to play around with how the effect sounds. So I've got a little delay on this rhythm sound. It's really subtle. If I switch it off, you're hearing a little reverberation because I've got some reverb set on the Mesa Boogie amplifier that I've modelled. Tiny little bit of spring reverb. Now this first delay is two delays, one set at 10 milliseconds and the second set at 15 milliseconds. And it just creates a bit of time difference between the left and the right channels. Really subtle, but for rhythm playing it's great. Just gives you a little bit of extra space in the sound. The great thing about the Boss Digital Delay is it has 8 user presets. Bank A has 4 and Bank B has 4. And I've set them up so that I can gradually increase the amount of delay that I use when I'm recording. So one is hardly any delay at all. If we switch to 2, without any delay it sounds like this. Just the reverb. The left delay is set to a 16th note, which means it's a very fast delay. So if I want a little bit more space, I switch to bank number 2 and put on the 16th delay. Now this is where it gets interesting, because on the Line 6 Helix I used a dual delay, and I had one delay set at an 8th division and a second delay set at a quarter division, and I would switch either of them off and on depending on what I was playing. This allows me to do exactly the same thing, but I've got much more control over what delay I'm using. So if I have the 16th delay, it sounds like this. If I switch on the 8th delay, 8th of a note, sounds like this. So more. If I put the 16th on with the 8th, so I'm using 2 delays now, I get a little bit more space. Now if we go to number 3, the delays I have set there, the left channel is set to an 8 triplet delay and the right channel is set to a 4th beat, quarter beat triplet delay. So let's hear the 8th delay first. Now add the quarter delay. Let's switch to the clean channel and we'll have a bit of chorus. Listen to it now. So this combination, the triplet delay here, is just fabulous for clean sounds. It gives your clean playing just that extra depth. Really nice. Now, the next delay, channel 4 has an 1/8 delay in the left-hand channel. Switch it on. But I've got it set to just 1 repeat. The second delay unit is a 1/4 delay. Again, quite subtle, but it has a number of repeats. And if we put in the 1/8 delay as well, so all of the delays in bank A are set so that effectively the left and right channels are doing exactly the same thing, which means I can record it in stereo or mono and it sounds just as good. If I'm using a rhythm guitar part and I don't want a huge amount, I'll record in mono. If I'm using like a clean guitar part, I'll record in stereo. Band B gives me even more flexibility because it starts using the device in true stereo. So, in bank B, B1, I have an 1/8 delay and I've got an 1/8 of a delay in the left channel and a 1/4 delay in the right channel, and they're split. So what you'll hear is the guitar will echo more to the right. So if I'm recording and I put the guitar in the left channel, I'll use this setting to get the delay to appear in the right channel, and it just makes the guitar sound bigger. So have a listen to this. Now, number 2 in this bank is that, but reversed. So, if I'm recording the guitar in the right hand channel, I'll have the delay in the left. Throw in some flanger. So you can get some really interesting sounds with really few pedals. Now, number 3 in this bank is another triplet delay. I've got a 1/4 triplet set in the left delay and a 1/2 triplet in the right delay. Sounds like this. Sounds very interesting. Really nice. Now the 4th delay is another big one. I have a 1/4 note delay in the left channel and a 1/2 note delay in the right channel. So this is even longer delay than the previous one. Sounds like Pink Floyd. Which is ace. You can use this with lead tones. So if I switch to the lead channel, kick in the distortion, get the chorus off, then we get a really nice lead sound. So that's all the delay settings. The other nice thing about the Tonex is I've got a clean crunch and a lead sound, but I've also got a second clean crunch and lead sound in bank 2. So if I move the bank up, we've got clean 2. Listen to clean 1. Clean 2 has a little bit more top end. Let's switch the delay to bank. So that's clean 1. With a much shorter delay, clean 2. So when you blend those, either with the same guitar or 2 different guitars, again, you can get some really interesting sounds. Say, for example, I want to go from guitar to bass. It's this easy. Grab the bass guitar, take the cable, pop it in, make sure the bass is set to 0. So I got it wrong earlier. Channel A on the line selector is the guitar rig. Channel B is the helix, and the bypass sends the signal to the computer. For bass, I'm actually using a digital emulation of a Galley and Kruger amplifier in the computer, so I have no bass rig at all. It's all done in the computer. But this pedal means I can switch to bass almost immediately. So imagine I'm playing bass and I come up with the next bass line. I record it, then I immediately put the bass down, grab a guitar, plug the lead in, switch back to channel A, and I'm back in guitar mode. It's that quick, and that's what I love about this rig. For recording, I have everything I want at my disposal. I can change guitar at will, I can switch from bass to guitar, I can switch to acoustic, I can basically play anything I like without having to mess around and play around with cables or anything like that. So this is my ultimate guitar rig, and I promise I'm not changing anything. Oh, one other thing I've got to show you. The delay unit has some secret Eddie Van Halen presets. So we have to switch to EVH. And we get 4 Eddie Van Halen sounds. It's quite a long delay. Number 2. Number 3. And number 4. This guitar I've just picked up is slightly out of tune. Now, which is great because the Shure also has a tuner. So if I find I'm slightly out of tune, I can quite easily get my guitar back into tune again. So I've showed you everything. My ultimate guitar rig. Thanks for watching.